He gonna come, he gonna be tough, strong, but I'm coming to whoop his ass. I stand by that. I stand by that. I'm fucking him up. Yeah. I'm fucking him.
This is what you guys need. This is what boxing needs. This is why we're here. We're here to take over. Now we got this lightweight coming up to super lightweight to come over here and dethrone the champ.
Yo, so Shakur Stevenson stared Teofimo Lopez straight in the eyes and told him that January 31st is the night his entire legacy completely falls apart. And bro, Teofimo's reaction was crazy enough to get the whole room on its feet. Security had to jump in immediately. This face-to-face was different. What went down between these two has the entire boxing world losing its mind right now. We've got receipts, we've got quotes, and we've got all the drama you need to know before this fight goes down at Madison Square Garden. Let's get into it. So, Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez finally sat face-to-face for the very first time since this fight was announced. And look, we've all seen face-offs before, right? Usually it's just stare-downs, maybe some trash talk, whatever. But this one had completely different energy. The tension in that room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. And both of these undefeated champions made it crystal clear that this fight is personal. Before we break down everything that happened, just know that this face-off happened about 7 weeks before the actual fight. January 31st at Madison Square Garden. That's when these two are finally going to settle it in the ring. But what went down in this room might have already decided who has the mental edge going into fight night. Alright, so let me set the scene for you. This wasn't even supposed to be main event level drama yet. You know what I'm saying? They're still 7 weeks out. But according to people who were actually in the room, the vibe was intense from the moment both fighters walked in. And here's the thing that makes this even crazier. Right before Shakur and Teofimo even sat down face to face, Teofimo Lopez Sr. was already going at it with Shakur's team. Like bro, the father jumped in first. According to insiders who were there, Teofimo Sr. was going off, saying stuff like, "Shakur ain't never fought nobody like my son. All them southpaws Teofimo beat were elite fighters. All them guys Shakur beat were regular opponents. There's levels to this. Now look, we know Teofimo Sr. is always talking, always in the mix, always trying to get inside opponents' heads. That's his thing. But what made this different is you could tell Shakur was absolutely fuming inside. On the surface, his team brushed it off, playing it cool. But sources say Shakur couldn't wait for his turn to respond directly. And that's exactly what happened when they finally sat down face to face. So when Shakur and Teofimo finally locked eyes across from each other, witnesses said something stood out immediately. Shakur had this ice-cold demeanor that was honestly intimidating to watch. One person who was in the room said, and I quote, "Shakur didn't blink once. He just stared at Teofimo with this look like he already knew exactly how the fight was going to go. And then Shakur started talking." Now, we don't have official video of everything that was said, but multiple sources who were present confirmed similar versions of this. Allegedly, Shakur told Teofimo straight up, "January 31st is the night your whole legacy crumbles. You and your daddy both gonna be crying after I expose every single weakness you got. This ain't Lomachenko. This ain't Josh Taylor. This is a whole different level you never seen before." Bro, can you imagine hearing that in person? Like, that's not just regular trash talk. That's calculated. That's personal. And the way Shakur said it, according to people there, was so calm and confident that it made it even more chilling. But Shakur didn't stop there. He broke down Teofimo's game too. He said something like, "I've seen all your weaknesses. Every time you fight a boxer who can move, you struggle. Lomachenko didn't throw punches for 6 rounds and you still couldn't finish him. I'm 100 times better than that version of Loma." And here's where it gets even more wild. Shakur allegedly went beyond just boxing and started attacking Teofimo's mental state. He's been saying for a while now that Teofimo might have some mental issues. And during this face-off, he doubled down. Witnesses say Shakur looked at Teofimo and said something like, "I think you got mental issues you need to work through, and January 31st ain't a therapy session. It's a boxing match, and I'm gonna expose everything that's broken about you." Now that's crossing a line for a lot of people. Like, that's way beyond typical boxing trash talk. But Shakur's supporters on social media have been defending it, saying Teofimo's been talking reckless for years about everybody. So now he's getting it back. Alright, so obviously Teofimo wasn't about to just sit there and take all that, right? According to sources, there were multiple moments where the tension almost boiled over into an actual physical confrontation. Security and the organizers had to step in a few times. Teofimo allegedly fired back with some serious heat too. Reports suggest he said something like, "You talk all that trash about being elite, but deep down you know you ain't built like me. I break fighters mentally before I even touch them physically." Ask Lomachenko how that feels. And that's a power move right there, because Teofimo's biggest wins came when he was the underdog, when everyone doubted him. Against Lomachenko, against Josh Taylor, he was counted out both times and he came through. So bringing that up was his way of saying, "I've been here before and I thrive in these situations." But here's what makes Teofimo dangerous in this particular fight. Multiple boxing analysts have pointed out that Teofimo is at his absolute best when he feels disrespected, when people count him out, when there's pressure. Chris Algieri, who's been around Teofimo during fight weeks, said it perfectly. The more out of sorts he seems, the more his back's against the wall, the more he's an underdog, the better he performs. And in this face-off, you could see Teofimo leaning into that underdog energy. He kept emphasizing how much he's sacrificed, how hard he's worked for everything he's got, and how Shakur can't just take that away from him. He said stuff like, "You can't take this from me. I worked too hard for it. I've bled for this." There was also this moment where Teofimo leaned forward during the sitting face-off and said something that made Shakur's entire team stand up. We don't know exactly what was said, but people in the room said it was intense enough that security immediately got involved. Now here's something that adds even more layers to this rivalry. These two have history going way back to their amateur days. They've known each other since they were like 12 or 13 years old, competing at the national level together. During the face-off, Shakur allegedly brought up their amateur encounters as proof that he has Teofimo's number. He said something along the lines of, "We already know how this story ends. I've seen you at your best and I'm still better. That's just facts, and January 31st is going to confirm what we already knew back in the day." But Team Lopez completely rejects that narrative. Teofimo Sr. has been especially vocal about it, saying amateur boxing and professional boxing are completely different sports. And honestly, he's got a point. Plenty of guys who dominated as amateurs didn't do anything as pros and vice versa. But for Shakur, bringing up that history was another psychological tactic. He's trying to plant that seed of doubt in Teofimo's head, like, "I've beaten you before. I'll beat you again." Alright, so let's talk about what's actually going to happen when these two get in the ring, because that's what this all comes down to, right? Here's the fascinating thing about this matchup. Shakur actually wants Teofimo to come forward and pressure him. In an interview, Shakur said that guys who press him and throw a million punches are supposed to give him trouble, but he's figured it out. He said, "The guys who box and give me time to think are the ones who struggle with me all night." So in Shakur's mind, Teofimo coming forward aggressively is actually playing into his hands. He can use his movement, his defense, his ring IQ to frustrate Teofimo and pick him apart. But here's where it gets interesting. Multiple experts have pointed out that Teofimo has struggled against mobile fighters. Bruce Carrington broke it down perfectly. He said Teofimo had problems with Sandor Martin and issues with Jermaine Ortiz, guys who keep moving and don't stay still. He said if you keep Teofimo moving, he can't plant his feet. What can he do? And that's the million-dollar question for this fight. Can Teofimo cut off the ring effectively against Shakur's movement? Can he make Shakur fight where he wants him to fight? The other huge question is stamina. A lot of analysts think Teofimo is a frontrunner, meaning he comes out explosive early but fades later in fights. If Teofimo gasses out after round 7 like some people predict and Shakur is still fresh and mobile, it could be a long night for Teofimo. But here's the counter-argument. Gary Anchuan Russell, who's a fighter himself and understands these styles, said if Teofimo shows up and fights like he did against Lomachenko, composed but aggressive, balanced but relentless, then Teofimo wins. He said it's a 50-50 fight that depends on which version of each fighter shows up. Let's talk about what's really on the line here, because it's massive for both guys. For Shakur Stevenson, this is his chance to finally shut up all the critics who say he's boring, who say he doesn't fight elite opposition, who say he's all hype. A win over Teofimo Lopez, who beat Lomachenko and Josh Taylor, would be by far the best win of Shakur's career. Chris Algieri said a victory here would solidify Shakur as a top 5 to 7 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Plus, there's been buzz that the winner of this fight gets a massive fight in May. It could be Ryan Garcia, it could be Gervonta Davis, or it could be a move up in weight. The promotional team behind this, led by Turki Alalshik, has been hinting at huge plans for whoever wins. For Teofimo Lopez, this is about proving he's still elite, that his best days are ahead of him, not behind him. Some people have questioned whether Teofimo is the same fighter he was when he beat Lomachenko. There's been talk about his consistency, his motivation, and whether he can still perform at the highest level. This fight answers all of those questions. A win over Shakur would prove that Teofimo belongs in pound-for-pound conversations, that he's still one of the most dangerous fighters in boxing, and that the doubters were wrong. A loss for either guy would be devastating. Whoever takes that L is going to have serious questions to answer about where they go from here. Alright y'all, that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments who you got winning this fight. Are you Team Shakur or Team Teofimo? And if you made it this far, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, because we're covering this fight all the way up to fight night. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.